So I initially got involved with Girls on the Run, with Girls on the Run, by reading just a little blurb in a magazine that said something about, do you want to, do you love running? Do you want to help girls become confident, become a volunteer with Girls on the Run? And I thought, that sounds great, because I didn't take up running until I was an adult, and I knew what running did for me, and I thought, how fun to be able to volunteer and give this thing to a girl. And so I wasn't even living in San Antonio at the time. I was living in Salado, ready to move to San Antonio. And I was getting ready to move here, and I thought, well, let me see if they have a program, so when I move down I can volunteer. And they didn't. In fact, I looked on the map, and there was no program. And so I contacted Girls on the Run International and said, hey, I'm interested in becoming involved. I want to volunteer. Can you tell me what to do? Can I find out if somebody's starting a chapter? So at the time, Girls on the Run International was just collecting emails of people who said we're interested. So they sent me back this list of like 100 emails of people who have said we're interested in Girls on the Run. And I just sent out a big spam and said, hey, I'm just moving to San Antonio. Is there anybody here who's doing something about this? And as it turns out, there were a group of women who were getting ready to start the program and see what interest there would be in the community to get the council up and running. And so they were having a meeting in a couple of weeks, and I went to the meeting, and I dragged my sister, Marika, along with me, and we thought, let's just see what's going on. And so it was a meeting of about 30 people sitting in a little conference room at Hawthorne Academy, and the two people, Katie Buckland and Chris Quintanilla, who were originally getting the program together, talked about it and talked about what it would take to write the application, do the fundraising we needed to get the program up and running here in San Antonio. And so when that dust settled, it turns out there were 9 of us who met for coffee and said, we're going to do this. And so we wrote the application, got the funding together, and got the program started. So that's how it began. And so I wanted to volunteer, and like everybody there, we were all volunteers the first couple of years. But I guess, that's what it takes to get things moving. You have a group of people who say, I want to see this happen. And, as I'm telling the story, I'm thinking, I didn't even think about it. It's like, this is what needs to be done, let's do it. And so we did. Chris Quintanilla was, she's so awesome. She was our first board chair, and she knows everybody. And so for her, she can rally everybody together to get things moving. So yeah, she was really key to getting this whole program up and running. So originally, Katie Buckland was the original executive director for about 6 months, and we wrote the application knowing that she was getting ready to move to St. Louis and take a new job. But at the time, I didn't really understand them. Like, I knew I understood what it meant to be executive director, but I didn't really get what I was doing. It was a grassroots program. And so just looking at people's lives, I was a freelance editor. That's my background. I was an English professor, American literature, women's literature. Those are the things that I taught, and I was a writer and still love to write. And so I was working from home, doing a lot of freelance work. And so I had a very flexible schedule and flexible time, no family, no kids of my own. So I could say, I have the time and I love this and I think I have the skill set. Let me see what I can do. And of course, you can never do anything like this alone. It takes an entire community. So I just got to be the lucky one who could start to lead that community. The Girls on the Run community, like, how do we get the work done? How does the work move? I think it's really fascinating listening to the volunteers talk about it as if it's not work, and that's a beautiful thing. And that means the other components are doing what we need to do. So we have a very small staff. There's 3.5 of us. We have myself as the executive director. We have Olivia Torres, she is our community outreach manager, and Daleen Hendon, our program manager, and we have a part-time bookkeeper, Minka Misangyi. So the bookkeeper is not on site. She, thank God, does all of the numbers and keeps all of the books and makes sure that we're doing things that we need to do in the way that we need to do them. And the rest of us, the other 3, we really keep the program up and moving. But Of course, a big part of a nonprofit is the board. The board is the, I guess, the steerers of the ship. They're making sure that we have all of the right policies and practices in place. They help with governance. They're a working board. They do a lot of hands-on. You'll see them at every race. They're there, making sure the course is set up. They come out to sites, do site visits. So they're very active and very passionate about the work that we do. But we are definitely, and they are all volunteers, and we are definitely a volunteer-driven organization. So we can't do the work we do without our volunteers. We have coaches who are volunteers who facilitate the program, and they're out there with our girls making sure that things happen. We have other kinds of what we call core volunteers. Leadership teams is what we call the groups of people who really make sure that our infrastructure works well. So a marketing team, a community outreach team, and then a grant writing team. And so those teams are pretty much comprised of volunteers who do some pretty serious work for us. And it's always really interesting to me to hear them say, but this is fun, and we're done with the meeting, and they're still hanging around after the meeting, and it's so great. And I think, but when I'm like in a work setting, at any other job before I've had here, after work, you go home, and people don't want to go home. And I think that's huge. I mean, to me, that's really huge. They're the ones who do a lot of the work. And, as staff and as board, we're here to support them, because we can't do what we do if they can't support the girls. Yeah, so Girls on the Run is not a running program. We're called Girls on the Run, but really we're about so much more than running. We are a life skills building program, primarily an out-of-school time or after-school program that really works with girls in those important out-of-school time hours between 3 and 6, where kids need direction. They need something good to do and someplace good to go. So we're there to help fill that space with something really important, and that is, how do you build a tool, give the girls tools that will help them navigate life now, but well into the future. And so we have a curriculum that meets twice a week for an hour and a half each time for 10 weeks, and each 10-week season ends with a 5K race. And so that's the running piece. We teach girls life skills like, how do you manage your emotions? Like, we all have emotions. Emotions aren't good or bad. We feel angry, we feel sad, we feel happy, we feel joy, and all of those things are natural and good, but what do we do with them? And so that's where Girls on the Run comes in, giving them the tools to help them figure out healthy ways to manage those emotions. So girls often don't learn how to, historically really have not learned how to resolve conflict in healthy ways, and that's something that's been changing with every generation. And so what we try to do is give girls tools that will help them resolve conflict, which is natural and inevitable in life, but resolve that conflict in a healthy way. So those are some of the life skills that we're trying to build with the girls. And we want it to be fun, and so that's where running comes in. Running is the movement, it's the goal-setting piece that helps girls learn that they can set goals, that they can reach goals, that sometimes they're going to have difficulty getting there, and that's okay, because that's life. So how do we move forward? How do we keep going even when there are times we feel like we're moving backward? Ultimately, we keep going and we work toward an end goal. And for the girls in the program, that end goal is the 5K race. So I have a lot of favorite moments of the program. I mean, there are so many lessons of themselves that are my favorite. I love going to visit the teams, but I would say that like a great moment every season is the morning of race day, when it's 5 a.m. and I'm the one who gets to drive the U-Haul, and it's so much fun. And you get to the park. We have our races at parks, and you're just there. You've arrived at that day. There's nothing else. It's almost like, okay, everything that happens now is out of my control. We've done so much planning, and there's so many pieces that go into place for the girls to have this amazing, joyful day. And so that morning, before anything even starts, there's always a moment of just, wow, we're here, and it's going to be amazing. And there's nothing, we've done everything we can do to make this day fantastic or a complete tragedy, which we hope it's not, but you never know. Is it going to rain unexpectedly? Or, there's all kinds of things that can happen. And knock on wood, we've never had a bad race. I mean, there's always little things like the toilet's not working and things like that. But in the big scheme of things, everybody's healthy, nobody gets hurt, everybody finishes, everybody has a really great experience because they're reaching their goal. Every girl who comes crosses that finish line. I don't care if we're there all day, it doesn't matter. So that there's always that moment where it's like we arrived. We did all of this. They did all of this work, the girls, and we're here, and it's a very cool moment. And what's really cool too is that at almost every race, there's always one reason I get there so early is that there's always a family who are there first. And I remember the first time that happened, we were still at MLK Park. It's probably gonna choke me up. And there was this family who showed up at 6:30 in the morning, and we forgot, oh yeah, time change. We're there planning during the day. Did anybody bring flashlights? Did anybody bring lights? No, it's pitch black, and this family comes, and I'm like, oh my God, they're here early, and I want everybody to have fun, and now they're not gonna have fun because they have to stand and watch us set us tables and tents. And then later I found out who this girl and her parents were, and this was a middle school girl. So our first season at this particular school, and she had some pretty challenging, a pretty challenging situation going on that apparently at some point during the season she was suicidal, but she didn't really tell anybody that until after the fact. And fortunately, after the fact was not a suicide attempt, but it's that when she was in Heart and Soul and in the program, she felt close enough to the coaches that she was able to start opening up to them and say, here's what I'm thinking about doing. And her parents then were able to get involved. And I mean, this girl said later that the program and her coaches saved her life. And her parents were there early because they were so happy that she was whole, she was on her way to being whole again. And it was just, now I'm happy to see parents there early because I think, oh my gosh, it's okay. You're here, we're setting up. You can stand. It's okay. You can just stand there. But I know it means something special to them to be there so early because, that was our first early girl. And so I'm early. I'll come earlier and earlier, even if I'm there at midnight if I have to be. Yeah, so there's there's a lot of girls. I hear a lot of stories from coaches who talk about the things that impact them, and so that truly impacts me. And a couple of stories that stick out. It was at one of our sites. It was a Heart and Soul team, and one of the girls was a fighter. I mean, I guess in school every day she would get into fights, and she would come into Heart and Soul and talk about it, that somebody said something that she didn't like, so she punched the girl in the face, and she was always the one starting the fight. She didn't have the tools to know how to deal with anger or frustration or emotion, and so, hard emotions. And so one day she came into Heart and Soul, and the coaches were asking, so I don't know what the question was, but something about, tell us something good that happened in school today. And the girl said, well, today, this girl came up to me and called me a name, and I didn't punch her in the face. And this is the first time that I didn't hit somebody when they said something to make me mad. I remembered what I learned in Girls on the Run, and I walked away instead. And the coach was so happy that she had to email us and tell us right afterwards this whole story. And I thought it seems like a little thing, but it's a huge thing. You don't want people to learn that's how you deal with negative emotions. You can't walk around punching people in the face. It's just not a good idea. So that she learned that and she thought of it in the moment, in the heat of the moment, was a huge thing. And you hear other stories about girls who, unfortunately they're hard stories, girls who have a brother who ODs, and the whole drug situation is a terrible situation to deal with on its own, and then when a person dies because of it, it's a lot for an adult to figure out how to handle. And as a kid, how do you learn how to work through some of these things? And so we know from families too that Girls on the Run has helped the girls find a way to be able to process some of the bad things that happen to them and to have a safe space to talk about those things. And so that's a really huge thing too. Yeah. And I myself love going out to the sites. I mean, sometimes you lose sight of what you're doing when you're in an office working on, just the stuff that has to be worked on. So I just like to go and drop in and just watch. And there was one school, so I always pick the girls to hang out with when they're doing their running, who are kind of remind me of me when I was that age. I was the quiet kid. I wore glasses. I was not athletic. And I was really the one who was the loner at the back of the crowd, and that's always the girls who I end up gravitating to when I go to visit a team. And so there was one school that I visited where the girls ran around a field, so they were running in a circle around a field. And there was a girl at the end, and I said, "Hey, do you mind if I run with you?" And trying to make small talk, and they're not big on small talk when they're shy, and that's okay. I just keep asking them questions and wait for them to open up. And so, we're running, and she's like in third grade, maybe up to my elbow, and she says out of the blue, I almost didn't join Girls on the Run because I didn't think I was qualified. I looked down at her, I'm like, you're a girl, you're in third grade, and what? But I just said, really? So what did you think you needed to be or to have or to do to be qualified to join Girls on the Run? And she said, well, when I told my brother that I wanted to join, he laughed at me and he said, you can't do that. And I said, really? Tell me more. And so she starts to tell me all of these things, negative things that her brother, has been saying to her about the things she can't do, and you can't run, and you can't do like this whole slew of things. But every time she talks about one thing her brother says she can't do, she starts running a little faster. So that after a while, we're like sprinting around the field, and I'm like, hey, slow down, you're going too fast. But she didn't realize until she was out there running. And so at the end, when she's telling me all this stuff her brother says she can't do, I'm like, well, so tell me more. You've been in Girls on the Run, a month or more now. What do you think? And she says, well, now I can answer questions in class. And she starts talking about the things she's learning that she's doing in school. And her face is just lighting up, and she's actually talking as we're running. And so we get to the end of the run. I said, so your brother tells you you can't do all these things. You just told me what you can. What do you think now? She said, I think I'm going to join again next season. And that was like, I just wanted to hug her. That was like the best moment. That's my favorite. She was so cute, though. I didn't think I was qualified. What? Where's your resume? You can see it. You can see the impact it makes on them, that they keep coming back. We've had girls who have been in the program for, I think the biggest one is, she started in third grade and went all the way through middle school. How many seasons is that? And so, girls keep coming back, and they grow and they change, and I hear the stories. But it's not just that. Another thing that keeps me coming back is our volunteers. I mean, you've heard some of them talk today when we were interviewing them about how much they love the program. And when I look at people that I don't know that well, or see them out with their girls and hear them talk, and I think, wow, look at what this is doing to you. Look at what this is doing to the families and to the community. And it's huge. It's just, it blows my mind, and it blows me away to see so much love, I guess. You see it on their faces, and it's like, wow, really? And all we have to do is, keep the plate spinning, put stuff in place, and it's like magic happens. It's just amazing, if you set it up right so that it's easy, it's like magic. What does it need right now? Well, right now, technically, is in the middle of a pandemic where we need to find a way, that's what we need. We have people who are passionate. We need more people who are passionate and want to reach the girls and to take the program out to them. I suspect we're going to need more funding. I mean, we are a fee-based program, but we never turn a girl away based on financial need. So every girl who needs a scholarship gets it. And that means, like for this past season, spring 2020, when the pandemic hit, 77% of our girls got scholarships, and that's a lot. And we want to keep doing that. We want to be everywhere where a girl wants us. So to be everywhere where a girl wants us means people need to know about us. So we need that passion just to help spread the word that we're here, and here's what we do for the girls and the families and the community. And then the schools to support the program, and they do. I mean, we're a social emotional learning based program, and that's so important right now when kids are trying to figure out how to navigate this weird world we're living in. Not that there's really any such thing as normal, but there's something that's more normal than what we have right now. So how do they find their bearings, and how do they figure out how to process life as it's coming at them right now? We need a way to reach them and to make sure that they know and families know that we're here. How do we sustain the next 10 years? I think, they're like a lot of nonprofits, but I think Girls on the Run is unique in this, the volunteer base to reach the girls. And so we've been really lucky to have that. We have a lot of people who are passionate about what we do, who are passionate about the girls they serve, and we need more of that to sustain what we do. How we as a society, what we decide is important for our kids to have and do. And there are so many great nonprofits who really want and are doing great work with kids. And so how do we make sure all of us are there and sustainable when, kids out of school time programming, after school, those are the last spaces the kids are before they go home for the day. And so what are they learning there? What are they taking out into the world? What kind of attitude? It's so important that they have a safe space to be and that they're learning something positive. So we need the acceptance, I think, from the community at large that out of school time programming is important. So one of the really great things that I've found about San Antonio and that I love about it is the willingness that so many, not just willingness, but the nonprofits that I've worked with and the leaders that I've met welcome each other with open arms. It's like really they are here to collaborate with each other, to partner in a true sense, and it's not just lip service. And so there are a lot of really great organizations here, and there are really good organizations that serve girls. Girls on the Run is unique, like they're all unique, but ours specifically, we have that physical component that ties with the SEL component, social emotional learning component, and those two things fit together in a way that's unique from other organizations. So we don't look at other girl groups as competitors. They're our partners, and we're all trying to find ways to make girls better and make girls healthier and make girls see their own value. And so we always look for ways that we can help each other to do that. And I think that, I don't know if that's really unique to San Antonio. This is the only place I've ever worked in a nonprofit. But I hear that it is, and I believe it, because people really care about the kids we serve. And so, they're our friends. We love our other girl groups and a lot of the other nonprofits.